Hi, it's Cara. It is almost the end of the month and today we are doing my August book haul. They're playing board games, the fam, so it is a little loud, but we're just gonna roll with it because I want to film this book haul. So I have, I think, 18 things here to show you. I feel like I did pretty good this month resisting. I got an extra book from my LGBTQ plus subscription service, LGBTQ plus reads subscription, because we're not getting a book in September because Dahlia Adler's away, so we got 2 books this month instead. So I do have 2 from that. Some big releases that had been delayed, and yeah, some really exciting things. And a couple of these, or at least one of these, was a birthday present to myself, and one of these was a birthday present from a friend, but I am still waiting on some other birthday presents to come in, so they'll be in my September haul. I also have Sissy. I don't think you can even see her, but she's right beside me, right where I would be putting books normally, so once I've talked about them, so we're gonna have to look after her. Alright, so I have 3 stacks here. Where shall I start? Let's start with this stack. So first off we have Loveless by Alice Oseman. This is her newest release. As most of these are new releases. I've already started this. I'm a whole 60 pages in, and I'm hoping to finish it by the end of the month. This is probably her most own voices book to date, and the main character is asexual and aromantic and kind of juggling and coming to terms with that, I guess you could say. So that's the basic premise of this. Yeah, I'm not very far into it. It is just disaster queer, is basically how I've seen it described. I feel like we're a bit high. How's that? Do we feel more on a level? Yeah, that's a bit better. Now we have a couple of, like, 2 here sequels. I think there's a couple more in this stack, but up next are a couple of sequels that I picked up from books I read last month or the month before. First off, we have The Winter of the Witch by Catherine Arden, which is the 3rd and final book in the, I think it's called the Winter Night trilogy. So the first one was The Bear and the Nightingale. And this is much shorter than I thought it would be. It's only like 350 pages. I'm hoping to get to this sometime soon so I can finish off the trilogy. I did really enjoy The Girl in the Tower, which is book 2, and then yeah, I picked this one up. Similarly, we have Bloody Rose by Nicholas Ames. This is the sequel to Kings of the Wild, which is following Rose this time and Tam. So it's much more girl band rather than the boys band that was in the first book. This is a bit chunky. It's 500 pages. I really enjoyed book 1, so I'm very excited to read this. It's kind of, yeah, George R. R. Martin meets Terry Pratchett, and I did say the first one reminded me a lot of Terry Pratchett, so there is that comparison. Next up we have Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid, which is a own voices black novel about a girl who was babysitting for a white family, and she takes the kid to the supermarket and then gets accused of kidnapping her, and it's like a commentary on performative activism and things like that. I'm really excited to read this. Again, it's not very long, what, 300 pages, so I'm hoping to get to it sooner rather than later, but I'm not sure exactly when it will happen. But I'm like, I've previously strayed away from literary fiction because nothing drew my attention, but there's starting to come out some really good, interesting literary fiction titles that I'm really interested in, and this is one such. Honestly, I probably shouldn't have bought this because it kind of breaks my buying things from authors you haven't read other ones on your shelves from rule, but this is House of Dragons by Jessica Cluess. I kind of got sold this by my friend Matthew at the bookstore. It's a like battle between, like a Hunger Games style battle for the throne, I think. And I've just heard it is really good. I don't know if it's standalone or first in a series, but I've heard really good things. in a vague sense. I don't really know that much about it. I just know people have been enjoying it. And yeah, I'm kind of down for a vicious fantasy, if that is what this is. Also, I've heard Jessica Cluess is really good. I have a Shadow Bright and Burning on my TBR, but I haven't read it yet. Finally, I picked up the new paperback cover of Mirage that matches the sequel, which is Court of Lions. I've been eyeing off this book for a while, but I'd heard some mixed things, but Fadwa kept talking about it and convincing me through her like consistent talk of this that I really need to get it. This is a Moroccan inspired fantasy, and the sequel has a female-female romance, so I'm so excited to read this. Next up we have a chunker, and that is The Tyrant, Barrow Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. This is the third in the Barrow Cormorant series. The first one was probably my favorite. I think I preferred the first one to the second one, and the first one can be read as a standalone, which it mentions somewhere on the back, I think. But the series is intense. It's a critique on imperialism and it's so good. It's a super diverse world. Like, the world has a whole heap of cultures, but it's looking at like the way imperialism like destroys that. And our main character Barrow is from this small village where everyone was raised with 3 parents, like 2 fathers and a mother is the most common arrangement, I think. And then the imperial people come and take over, and she becomes part of the imperial army, and it's exploring all of those nuances. I found the first one hard to get through, but by the time I finished it I was really satisfied, and then I really enjoyed book 2, but didn't have that same satisfaction at the end because it was a bit more cliffhangery. So I'm really excited to continue on with this one, but it is like literally 650 pages and big, like bigger than my head. It's taller than my head. It's huge. Another quite tall book, we have Labazona by Romina Garber. This is I think it's dystopian paranormal. Like, she turns into a Labazona, which I think is kind of like a werewolf, but our main character is an undocumented immigrant from, I think, Argentina, trying to move into North America, but I'm not 100% sure. But so it has some paranormally kind of elements, mythology elements, but also set in a modern day setting as far as I'm aware. I know people were saying this was high fantasy, and the author was like, no, it's not high fantasy, it's more dystopian, I think. But I can't really remember. Yeah, so it's dealing with modern day problems like ICE, undocumented immigration. Yeah, so there's witches like Bruja and Lobizon, which are werewolves, yes. And she's dealing with, so it says she's on the run from her father's Argentinian crime family. Yeah. What am I trying to say? I don't know that much about the exact plot of this, but the vibes and the cover like drew me in, and I'm hoping to read this very soon. We also have The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This is another literary fiction that was really drawing to me. This one is about, is another black story, like a black voices story. How do I say that and not sound dumb? This story features by a black author featuring the black experience. We're following a pair of twins, I think, identical twin sisters, but they are white passing, and one of the sisters decides to live her life as if she's a white woman, and she's married with kids and no one knows that she's black. And then she returns to her little rural town where her twin sister never attempted to do that, and the conflict that kind of crops up there. So I know it's like a generational, long running kind of story. And yeah, I'm really fascinated by literary fiction that deals with complex experiences. I feel like too much literary fiction feels generic to me, but like My Dark Vanessa, which I read this last month, which is about sexual abuse and pedophilia. I'm liking the dark shit and the weird shit in literary fiction. This just looks like it'll be amazing and touch on some really hard-hitting topics and really make me think. Finally, this was a gift from my friend Rainey. We have the Book of Hidden Wonders by Polly Crosby. I literally just saw this at the bookstore. I was like, and then she was asking me for things that I would like to have her get me, and I was like, maybe this. It's from a debut author, and her father gets famous with a series of children's books where she's the main character, but there are dark things happening. It kind of reminds me a bit of like an adult version of, because I'm pretty sure this is adult, an adult version of, what's it called? You know, the one where she's in the book of fairy tales. It was around booktube everywhere. So it seems like an adult version of that. And I am really excited to read it. I think it could be really fun. All right, final stack. These are the hardcovers that are all the same size. We have I'll Be the One by Lila Lee. This came in my LGBTQ+ subscription box. This is has a bisexual main character who's also plus size, Korean, or half Korean. I think she's fully Korean maybe. And she's setting her sights on becoming the world's first plus size K-pop star. I am really excited for this. I was fascinated by the, like, I feel like I don't appreciate often enough bisexual characters in male-female relationships, and we were talking about things that were underrated when I was being recommended this, and she was like, yeah, I feel like this quite hasn't got enough attention. So I was like, freak yes, sign me up. And I love this cover, it's so cute. And we were going for cute and fluffy because the next thing I got is the Falling in Love montage by Kiara Smith. This one, or Kiara? This one is less fluffy but still a cute romance. It's set in Ireland, and we follow Saoirse and Ruby, and I think they do a fake dating thing. I don't know, I'm excited for this. It's set in Ireland. She lives in Belfast, and it just looks cute and fun. Oh, I haven't been showing you one of the covers. This one is bright yellow. I'll Be the One is white with a silver spine. Labazona is really pretty, so I have to show you that. I completely forgot about it. Look at this. Oh, I think Tyrant comrade's pretty plain, but it's blue. Alright, next up we have Star Daughter by Shweta Thakra. This is an Indian-inspired fantasy where our main character is the child of a star and a king, I think, and she's going to seek help from her celestial family to like save the kingdom or whatever. I've heard great things about this. I'm hoping to read this very, very soon. Look at that cover, it's stunning. And we got a nice black underneath. Again, if you notice, like if you haven't watched many of my videos, you wouldn't know, but I tend to go into things mostly blind with like keywords and not a full synopsis. I don't like to read full synopses, but I am hyped for this. Just because I can't tell you much about it doesn't mean I'm not super excited for it. Next up we have A Wicked Magic by Sasha Lawrence. I think I'm going to try and read this in October. It seems very spooky. There's magic, mysterious creatures, I think it's witchy stuff. Beware the magic in the Black Book. When Daniela and Liz stumble on a way to transform themselves into witches, they didn't realize that magic had an agenda of its own, that every time the friends cast a spell, they were one step closer to disaster. I've heard mixed things about this. It's gotten some very mixed reviews, but I don't care. I'm still so excited for it. And I haven't had that many people talking about it, so I don't know if I trust its low rating, because I'm excited. A book that's been getting quite a bit of buzz lately is Agnes at the End of the World by Kelly McWilliams. This is obviously a dystopian or a post-apocalyptic kind of story. It's blue and grey underneath. We follow Agnes, obviously. And I think she lives in like a doomsday cult kind of thing. It says perfect fans of The Handmaid's Tale and Wild Girls. Again, I don't know much details, but I've heard good things and I'm really excited to read this. Was it in July I finished the first book in the Falconer trilogy, so I picked up The Vanishing Throne, which is book 2. This is the hardback. It's really heavy. It's got thick pages. Look, it's orange. I love that. And kind of leathery feeling. I don't think it's actual leather, but it kind of has that feeling. It's heavy. This series is a paranormal fae series set in Regency, Scotland. I think it's Regency era. And our main character is a falconer, which means she fights fae, and there was a setup for a love triangle with a fae, like a dark fae character, and then a marriage of convenience. And I loved the romance in book 1. I can't wait to see where book 2 goes. Book 1 definitely ended on a cliffhanger. It's like Buffy but fae in Regency, Scotland. It's so good. Then we have Forrest of Souls by Laurie M. Lee. This is something I'm so hyped for. We have another Saoirse, and she's the royal spy. And her best friend is killed and she somehow brings him back to life. Things are happening. How I heard this described was that the author wrote a fantasy that's medieval style, like a Western style fantasy but with Asian characters. And she was saying, why does Asian fantasy always have, like, why do Asian characters only get to be an Asian inspired fantasy? So that was the point of this book. So she's, a lot of people have been like, oh, it's not Asian enough. It's not meant to be. It's Asian characters in a Western fantasy. But I am incredibly excited to read it. I am so hyped. I love the cover. It's black underneath. I do wish the dust jacket was foiled, but we can live with that. We can live with it. I'm very excited for this, which I'm saying about everything, so far out. And finally, super hype release, we have Harrah the Knife by Tamsin Muir. This is the sequel to Gideon the Ninth, if you didn't know, and I am dying to read this. I'll probably be reading it in September if I can fit it on my TBR. By which I mean if I conveniently roll a Becca's Bookopoly roll that will fit it. So if you didn't know, I'm not doing a set TBR for September. I am doing Bookopoly rolls the whole month long. So keep an eye out for vlogs for that, and also check out my Twitter if you want live updates of what my rolls are every day. But yes, Harrah the Knife. I don't even know how to talk about this. It was pegged as, like, its tagline for the first book was lesbian necromancers in space, which I feel like is a bit misleading, because it's not a romance by any means. It's just a bit queer. Like, all the characters are queer, but it's not a romance. It's like a weird necromancy space book. And it's apparently, even this one, the first like half is confusing as shit, and then the things start to come together at the end, which was what the first book was. I personally love weird and confusing, but definitely if you don't even bother. Like, it's so weird and confusing. People either love it or hate it. I personally love this series, and I can't wait to read the second one, but I can totally understand why you wouldn't like it. So yeah, that's that. So those are all the books I picked up in the month of August. Let me know if you are excited for any of these like I am, and if there's any you think I should prioritize over others. Keep an eye out for my Bookopoly-thon September vlogs to find out what I'm going to be reading in September, and definitely check out my Twitter for live updates on that. And otherwise, I'll see you soon with my August wrap up. Thanks for watching. Bye.